Alright guys, here we are back with another video for the Veloster N. One thing that I've noticed so far while driving this car through the canyons and on long road trips is that sometimes the oil temperature kind of rises pretty high. So unlike the Elantra N, Emily has a digital readout for what the oil temperature is, so I can see that if it gets to 245, 252, let's just say, or something like that. On the Veloster N, since this is a 2020, I only have a gauge that's barred, and it lets you know that 300's over here and 200's over here. Pretty much you gauge where you think everything else is. So for me, it looked like this was getting around to 260 degrees, which I'm using good oil. I'm using AMSOIL 5W30. I'm not really worried about it because we don't use our oil any longer than around 3,500 miles to 5,000 at the most. But I would like to help keep things a little bit cooler. So I've seen a lot of people going ahead and upgrading their oil cooler kits, and I've decided to go ahead and give it a shot on the Veloster N. So today we'll be installing a Colorfittings oil cooler kit, which is a direct fit kit for the Veloster N. That's kind of what sold me, not only on that, but just the way that their kit looks sold me on it. They have different color available option, anodized fittings from purple, red, gold, black, teal. They give you a 10 AN fitting wrench, so that way you don't damage anything, as well as these 10 AN lines that feed the oil cooler. And then you get a Mokel thermostatic sandwich plate. They send you a brand new OEM Veloster N, or all the 2.0T filters use, as well as the 1.6Ts, but they send you a new filter. You get some brackets, your bolts to hold the kit. Look how big that kit is. That's a big oil cooler. I've seen some of the other ones for the Veloster N, and they look like they're cut off around here, so I'm really excited to see how this looks behind the grill and how it performs, seeing that there's a lot more face for the volume, for air to actually travel through, while the air is traveling in sideways through these bars. So that's how these kind of systems work. You'll have an inlet and you'll have an outlet, and pretty much what happens is you'll have oil traveling through these metal passages, and you're relying on the air flowing through this way to cool it while it's traveling this way. So I'm really excited to see this kit on here. They give you everything that you need for the installation, and it should be excuse me, they say that they're pre-cut to fit, so I'm really excited to see how it fits on here. And yeah, so first things that we're going to do is they also give you some detailed instructions on how to install the kit, which is really nice. So I'm going to actually follow these instructions. So first off, it's going to let us know that we have to remove the front bumper, and in order to remove the front bumper, it gives us the steps on exactly how to do that. So I have a video on how to do this for the Elantra N. It's not that much different on this as far as just placement of where these bolts are, but as far as the process of pulling it off, it's the exact same. So I'm going to remove the 4 10mm bolts up on top, which would be 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to remove the 3 fender liner clips that are on each side of the inside fender, which is going to be 1, 2, and then 3. And then same thing on this side as well. You're going to have 1, 2, 3. Then after that step, we're going to go ahead and remove the 1 bolt that holds the actual bumper to the side of the fender liner, which is going to be, let's see if I can focus on it. Yeah, it's right there. So you're going to go ahead and remove that, which looks like it's a 10mm and it has a Phillip tip indentation, so you can use a Phillip tip screwdriver. And one thing I like to do is when I do this is I'll go ahead and start the car real quick and turn the wheels, so that way this is much more accessible and you have a lot more room to go ahead and get into it. So after that, we're gonna go ahead and remove the under tray, which is a bunch of there's gonna be 7 bolts and 8 nylon retaining clips, and they kind of marked out right here where you can see each clip that you're gonna pop off. So this is gonna be pretty much right over here in this area under the tire. So you'll start from that way and just make your way removing all of them. So I'm gonna go ahead and start getting this undone. Going to first, honestly, what I'm gonna do is I have ramps, but those ramps don't work unless I remove the front bumper because they're kind of high up. So What I'll do is I'm gonna just remove the front bumper without removing the under tray, because there's only like 6 clips that hold the bumper to that. I can remove the front bumper and then I can get it up in the air, and then I can finish removing the under tray, and it'll give me a much more access so I don't have to jack it up to go ahead and install the sandwich plate and remove the oil filter. So I'll get started on that, and I'll go ahead and update you guys when I'm finished. All right guys, so remove the front bumper. Front bumper is removed. So I went ahead and just cleaned off this crash bar real quick because it's going to mount up to there, and it's going to let me know that it says to install the banjo fittings to the oil cooler. So install the 2 included banjo fittings to the 10 AM banjo bolts, the included core. Make sure to use 1 sealing washer on each side per banjo and orientate the fittings appropriately. You'll see the diagram, and then I'm going to torque them down to 29.5. So I don't know if my torque wrench goes to half increments. If it doesn't, I'm just going to do it to 30 pound-feet of torque. So we'll go ahead and see that the orientation is one flowing down this one flowing down on this one. So let's go ahead and get that started. All right, so quick update for anybody. If you don't have a 27 millimeter, because I didn't have a 27 millimeter socket, make sure you get one, because that's what's going to be the size for the banjo bolts that you're going to torque down to 30 pounds, 29.5 pounds. So I'm going to torque them down to 30 pounds right now, and we'll keep moving. All right, so we have these torqued in the orientation that they want them, facing down. And now we're going to go ahead and move on to the next step, which is going to be to install brackets to the vehicle. So before mounting the cooler to the brackets, clamp the brackets around the Veloster and crash bar. Secure the brackets together using the included M-SIG bolts and nuts. So I'm going to use those 2 step looking ones with the L bracket, and we'll go ahead and do that. Cool little side note is that they actually include on the baggie which bolts, you know, are for which step. So I'm on step 7, so pretty cool. All right, so brackets are temporarily installed. I mean, perfect fitment on how these line up. There's not going to be any issues with installing this kit. It's really been plug and play so far. So gonna go ahead and move on to the next step. We're gonna go ahead and install the oil cooler to the brackets. Once the brackets are on the vehicle, attach the oil cooler above the brackets using the hardware. It should fit between the crash bar and the upper air dam. The size of the air cooler provided may be different from the diagram shown. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to that and show you guys how it looks. Okay, so now that I have, what I had did is I had went ahead and just tightened up these 2 bolts first. I left these loose so that way I can see where I want to adjust this to make sure it's actually sitting even and not just leaving a big gap like this. So I'm going to adjust this to where I want and then tighten this down with 10 millimeter socket and go from there. All right, so the oil cooler is mounted and it sits perfectly inside of here, evenly where it needs to be. I mean, it's massive. A lot of people are going to say that it's blocking the radiator, but I mean, by rights, the fins right there should feed more than enough air for it to travel and feed the radiator as well. I mean, that's a lot of how a lot of modern cars are designed, with coolers put right in front of the radiator. So we'll see how this performs. I'm going to keep an eye on all the temperatures. I have an OBD torque reader that I can keep an eye on everything. And then yeah, really excited to continue hooking this up. So the next step is letting me know to go ahead and to drain the oil and remove the oil filter. So unfortunately, I'm not going to follow that step. I'm going to remove the filter and drain whatever oil is left, because I recently just did an oil change of AMSOIL 5W30. So anybody that is installing this kit, and I would just recommend to do an oil change at that time. You know, use something good. Motul 5W40, 5W30. You want full synthetic, and you want to make sure that you're running something that has a good zinc content that's good for these engines. There's a lot of information out there: Liquid Moly, Pure Oil, AMSOIL, Motul, all great brands. I'm pretty sure there's a couple other ones, but those are the ones that I know off the top of my head. So that's what I would do if I were you guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and just remove the oil filter, remove this. I forgot to remove that, so that's one step that I forgot to go ahead and do that they put in the beginning, but I'll go ahead and remove that. And then, all right guys, so I have the oil filter removed. That's gonna be where the sandwich plate's gonna connect to. So we're gonna go ahead and Go move along on the instructions, which is going to be step number 10, install the sandwich plate. So install the included local thermostatic sandwich plate to the oil filter housing. Ensure the sandwich plate is clocked for proper fitment. The side with the rubber gasket will face the oil filter housing. Torque the center extension screw to 20 feet-pounds. So we're going to go ahead and start unwrapping this, and I'll go ahead. So here's the housing, and here's going to be the center extension screw that we're going to torque to 20 feet-pounds. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of light bit of oil on this gasket as I go ahead and cinch it up. There's a lot of oil still around there that's dripping down that I can grab. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and clock this. You can see as here's the oil pan. This is going to obviously be away from the oil pan. So I want this to be barely clocked a little bit towards the oil pan. So we'll go from there. All right, guys. So I almost have this cinched up. And as you can see, what they're talking about is the original oil filter housing that's on the car is sitting a little bit cockeyed facing the front of the car. These lines are facing a little bit more towards this fan shroud. So what I'm going to do is I want this to be pretty much just running straight. So that way my AN fittings are going to be straight right into here. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of adjust it a little bit more, and then I'm going to torque this down to 20 pounds. Okay, so the filter housing is going to be put on at 20 pound-feet of torque. All right, so we have the sandwich plate on there now. It's torqued down. So the next step is going to be for us to install these orb fittings into the sandwich plate themselves. So these are going to be them. The metric side is going to be going into the oil filter housing, and this is going to connect to the AN fitting. You can tell right here with the flare adapter. So they want you to go ahead and lubricate these with some oil a little bit, and then put these around here on there, and then this will give you a tight cinch, and then we're going to torque these down to 30 pound-feet of torque. So we'll go ahead and get that done and move on. All right, so the orb fittings were a 27 millimeter as well. Torque those down to 30. O-rings are going to look like that when you do it. I mean, that's what it was when I torqued it down to 30. I wasn't able to get it to 29.5, but we'll go ahead and check it for leaks when we're done. Move on to the next step, which will be to install the lines in the filter. So they gave us a filter already supplied. So we're going to have an AN wrench that they gave us. We're going to attach the pre-assigned braided lines to the adapter plate, hand tighten these fittings for now, and provide the install the provided OEM filter onto the Mokel sandwich plate. You may substitute any oil filter for the OEM filter, but I love these are made by Wix, partnered with Wix, so there's nothing wrong with going with OEM filter. So let me go ahead and get this slapped on, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, now that I have everything hooked up and ran through, I'm gonna cut this zip tie obviously, but now that I have everything hooked up and ran through, I put a zip tie right here and just a piece of rubber right here to hold it, just in case if anything try to rub through. But routed it this way, goes right there. I only have, this is no tension on here. All of this is doing is just making sure that these don't pop up and hit any metal. And then there's the oil filter housing. So I'm gonna go ahead and just wait for it to get up to operating temperature for the thermostatic valve to open. I'll be able to know when I can put my hand on this, and then this is gonna be hot. So we'll go ahead and see how it runs, but it looks like a really good kit. I love it. Love how it looks. So we'll go ahead and see how it does. All right, so there's finally oil. The thermostat opened up and there's oil pumping through. This shit's hot, hot, hot. So I went ahead and checked for leaks, and there's nothing at all. everything's looking really good. Find your route is perfect. Really happy with the way that this kit came out, how easy it was to install. I had no issues. The lines were the perfect length. Nothing's going to be rubbing, everything's out of the way. So I'll go ahead and put everything back together and go ahead and give the car a run, follow the video up with another review. All right guys, just wanted to update you to let you see that this is the temperatures that I'm kind of seeing at idle right now at a stoplight. I'm seeing exactly around 200, and while I'm cruising it's around like 195, 197. So it's been performing really good. Haven't had a chance really to get on it, but we'll keep an eye on it and I'll update with another video of how it really does. So we just came back from a drive, and I honestly haven't really been able to get the temperatures over 200. Nothing crazy, just kind of highway pulls. Car feels amazing though. Very impressed with the kit. Super stealthy behind the bumper. You can just see the AN fittings kind of clashing right through. I'm pretty sure if you had like a custom car grill's front grill, it would definitely stick out a lot more. But I'm happy with this. It looks really clean, and yeah, love the way it turned out. So just want to say thank you to everybody for tuning along and watching our content, and commenting on our videos. And we're just very thankful for all the subscribers that we have. It's pretty crazy that you guys find interest in what we upload, and we appreciate it. So thank you guys, and see you on the next one.